Alright, got the cables, as well as some other things. Gas tank emblem. Got two of those, both sides of the tank. So yeah, I got the front brake cable. I went ahead and got the one with the switch, just so we have the option if we ever want to get brake lights on this bike. Same with the rear brake cable and the throttle cable. Pretty cool how it's all in the original packaging, spare packaging that is. By the end of this project, I might actually have a clean room. Okay, so I'm just doing a real quick assembly of the bike right now. I just want to make sure that the motor actually runs before I put any more effort into this thing. So I'm not really worried about whether I have all the bolts in place, or where they go, or what's correct, or what's rusty and what's not, or what's wired up to the... You get the point. I'm not that worried about those things right now. I'm just trying to get the engine to start and run and then do some heat cycles on it so that I can start breaking things in. After that, I'll probably go back over it and, do some more detailed work. But for now, it's just a quick assembly. We got our first gallon of gas here. I'm going to be mixing it up. Knowing how long this is going to take. Carburetor already shows some signs that I might have to pop it back off, because it's leaking out the side. It's going to take all day. That's a bit loud. Wow. We're getting there. Holy shit. I put my earplugs in. That was loud. Probably didn't sound that loud on the camera. That was that's a promising sign, I would say. Wouldn't you? So close. Wake up. Wake up, you stubborn old mule. Oh, that wasn't good. Looks like my idea to use this as a retainer for that is not necessarily going to work. Okay. On gas. Right on the money, baby. a little bit of an exhaust leak. That could be causing some problems. I would have kept it going, but I don't want to run it with an exhaust leak, so... Exhaust tissue. Look at this. See the smoke? I don't know if you guys can see it. Right here. There's a hole right there. I'll have to take our welder and weld a little plate across that, but for now, you know, you can always use the handyman secret weapon. Duct tape. I do see a problem. It is running, but there's an issue. We got some seepage happening at the head here. That's not good. Right in there, see all that fuel residue? It was bubbling out the sides. Yeah, you can see it. I wonder what that's all about, because I have those torqued to the exact right specs. Might have to replace that gasket with another one, because that's not right. I don't think we damaged anything though. I think it'll be okay. I just might have to work on that real quick. Little issue, as you can see, I had to remove the head. I just got it resurfaced here, so it's pretty nice and shiny, a lot shinier than it was. But yeah, went over to Barry Machine there. They said that this surface was good, that one was a little low, and I reopened my I opened my second gasket kit to get this one out. So I'm going to try recrushing this with this gasket here. The other one was new as well, but I may have over torqued it a little bit. So we're going to be really extra careful now. And was able to blow out some of the dirt. There was a tiny bit of dirt that made it into my cylinder over the last few months that it's been sitting, so that's kind of nice. But here we go with round two. I'm going to throw it all back in the motor and see if we can get it to run without bleeding out the side like that. Alright, so I managed to get this thing to start up and got all the leaks out of the head gasket there. I took the head and had it machined, and that worked out. Seemed to be good. I also noticed the second time I had it running here, when I got it going, I only had it going for about a minute because I had a lot of smoke still coming out of this area. So there was definitely an exhaust leak here happening, and it's happening at the exhaust flange. It's happening between the flange and the head. So not on this area where typically what happens is you get a leak right here because the springs wear out and then the pipe starts to loosen up and lets some exhaust pass. Well, it's happening right here. I could see the gap, and upon further inspection, when I first took this pipe off, this piece would not come off of the pipe, and I could see it wasn't evenly there wasn't an even space around the rim of the pipe and this. So basically, somehow it got welded on there. I don't know how. I'm thinking the people might have just beat it on there because they were having some issues with their springs. You can see where the springs go toward the, that's where they mount onto the motor there. You can see a little groove that was happening. So there must have been some sort of issue happening with the springs, or maybe they lost them. For those of you who don't know two-strokes, how their exhausts are, I'll explain it really quick here. So that flange gets bolted on there, and springs go onto tabs like this, and they pull the pipe into there, and that's all they use to secure that. And then they got a couple other areas that they bolt to the frame, but mostly that's what holds the pipe into the flange. That's it. Pretty primitive. Usually there's a gasket around it, and that's usually what wears out. Mine didn't get a gasket for some reason. It's got a recessed sort of lip or whatever. They got a double lip here, as you can see. So there's no gasket that goes into that. So anyway, it wasn't sitting evenly, and I can see that they tried to make it even. If you look at this, you can see that they grinded on it a little bit. You can see right there. I don't know if you can see those. Yeah, you can see those lines. Yeah, they grinded on it a little bit, and they didn't. It wouldn't sit flat, and I don't think they cared, because when I took this motor apart first time and got inside that cylinder, the Nicosil right here at this rib, which I've shown you guys a picture before, right here at the rib that goes across the manifold, the Nicosil was cracked away. So what was happening is there's a major exhaust leak there. Every time the piston goes up, you get a little bit of cold air that sucks in. And so, the cold air goes in, and then the piston blows down, and the hot air comes back out. You're getting constant cold and hot, cold and hot, cold and hot. And that causes your Nicosil to expand and contract really quickly. And after a while, it causes a problem. These people obviously either didn't realize it or just didn't care, didn't think it was a big deal that there was an exhaust leak. But one thing I do know about two-strokes, and I don't claim to be a professional here, but what I do know about two-strokes is exhaust leaks are really bad. They're actually bad in most combustion engines. Four-strokes, that'll burn up your valve in that area for the same reason. So anyway, I can't seem to get mine to sit flat. We noticed that the flange is a little bent as well. We tried to bend it back out. This took a ton of work to get this off. Normally they're just supposed to slide off of the pipe, or the pipe's supposed to slide out of them. This one was just so stuck on there. I figured they had used some sort of sealer. But anyway, got it off, remounted it back on. This is a new gasket, but it's not doing the job. It's the factory gasket, but it just seems too thin. I can still see that there's a little bit of a problem happening. So obviously this flange is just a little bit messed up. I can't get a new one. So I'm just going to go get a thicker exhaust gasket material and then cut out my own. I'm going to go do that here real soon. But anyway, so yeah, because we don't want to run this bike with that. I also managed to seal up the other holes in the pipe. I had our friend braze it shut in places. There's a hole right there, there was one right over there, and most of them were under the carburetor here. A little ugly, but I'm going to avoid sanding them because this pipe is pretty thin, and I'm sure more holes will form over the years, so it's never going to look great. Just as long as it works, it doesn't really matter. We'll paint over that stuff, and most people won't notice that. Got a new air filter. This is a Uni filter, or Uni or whatever. They're supposed to be a really good aftermarket filter. This one's a little bigger than mine, so it's probably for the bigger Rickman. But these get a special oil, which I got to go get. And I do need to go get some exhaust springs as well for that, because I don't have any to hold the pipe back in like we were talking about. Now, a word about breaking the bike in. So a lot of people on YouTube recommend to do a hard break-in. It's called a hard break-in, where you're basically redlining the bike for a period of time. It's supposed to really set the ring in and get you the maximum amount of power. Now, I've seen a lot of videos where people just did heat cycles, and then you get at the comments, you get all these people saying, you didn't break it in right, and it just seems like no matter which video I watch, there's always going to be hecklers down in the bottom saying, you didn't break it in right, you didn't break it in right, that engine's going to blow up. It's the same old thing over and over again. They're calling each other jackasses and calling each other punks, and basically there's not a single person out there that knows the exact right way to break in a bike. That's what I've noticed. I've even seen people argue with the manufacturers on how to do it. So the advice I got from Millennium, who were the people that did my cylinder, they said to just do heat cycle. Run it for 15 minutes, let it cool down, and then retorque the nuts. And that's another thing. All these supposed professionals out there, these hard break-in people, like even Jake the Garden Snake says do a hard break-in. Well, all these people, they never talk about retorquing the nuts down, but Millennium says you got to do it. So, there's a confliction there. Now, what bugs me about the idea of hard breaking it in is I just know that my bike's probably going to end up seizing up. I mean, everybody swears up and down it won't, but I think it will, personally. And the other thing I don't like is in the comments, these people that say to do a hard break-in, they're like bragging about getting 50 or 100 hours out of their engine. And it's like, well, sure, if you're doing a racetrack, that's good. we're trying to build a bike that lasts 20, 30 years. We don't really care if the horsepower is at the maximum. I want this thing to run for a long time. You know how many thousands of dollars I've spent on this damn bike and how many more I've got to go? I mean, 120 hours is not going to cut it. This is my 1981 Yamaha, and it's got 7,000 miles on it. Now, you consider that I only do an average of like 30 miles per hour on this bike. It's about as fast as it goes. Well, it goes up to like 60, 70, but that's really pushing it. 35 miles an hour, or even 30 miles an hour, you do that by the amount of miles I've done, it's like 10,000 hours, or maybe better. I mean, I actually had the math figured out before. I'm just saying that it's well over 120 hours. So to brag about getting 120 hours on a bike like this, to me, is stupid. No offense, but you're stupid. I want more than 120 hours. I want thousands of hours. So, yeah, we're not going to do a hard break-in. I just don't trust it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just run the bike 15, 20 minutes or whatever with a box fan in front of it and shut it down, let it cool down, retorque the nuts, and just do that a couple times. And then from what I'm told, that's the way to do it. I've talked to a lot of other mechanics out there that have done rebuilds on two-strokes. There's a dirt bike shop that I'm going to go here to get the filter oil here in a moment. And they said the same thing. Just run it for a couple sessions and then you're ready to go. Just ride it. You know, some people, I called one guy who specifically does work on Zundaps, and he says just ride it, period. He didn't say to rev it hard or run it up hills or do any hard engine braking or any of that crap. He just said ride it. So, you know, seems like everybody's got their own idea on how to break these things in, and they all call each other jackasses. So I guess if you break it in hard, it's going to die. And if you don't break it in hard, it's going to die. That's what I'm understanding. You know, it's kind of like health food. You know, if you eat healthy all your life and you never do anything wrong, you never do any drinking pop or drinking alcohol, you're still going to die. So, you know, it's like until you can solve death and until you can make the machine run forever, I really don't care what you have to say. You know, like I think a soft break-in's just fine. So that's just my opinion. I might be pissing people off by saying this stuff, but I just want this thing to run. I want what's best for my bike. So, yeah. I'm probably not going to even film in my break-in cycle. I'm just going to do it. Anyway, I'm going to go out there and do that stuff. So.